Round 2 of the ASA LMU Sprint Series is upon us here at the iconic Silverstone circuit. One of the most famous circuits in the world, home of British motorsport, is going to reward bravery among the highly talented drivers in this field. It's a short run to Abbey which flows into Farm and the first braking zone of Village, where run too wide, the loop becomes a much tighter left-hander which slows the run onto Wellington Straight, named after the Vickers Wellington bombers which flew from this former RAF bombing station. Late on the brakes and turn in as late as you dare for Brooklands as you head into the second sector, but overcook this corner and then Luffield becomes clumsy and your run down the old pit straight is hampered before attacking the treacherous Cops corner. One of the most famous set of corners to follow, with the fast flowing and ever getting tighter Maggots, Beckett and Chapel corners reward bravery to the highest degree before starting the final sector of this circuit. Get a good run down the hanger straight and you might just be able to shape up and overtake into Stowe before heading down the hill and into Vale and Club corners before doing it all over again down the Hamilton Straight. That's just one lap of this circuit. These drivers tonight will be faced with this for a 1 hour sprint race tonight. All live on Simsational TV. Don't go anywhere. Well, hello everybody and welcome back to another round of this ASA LMU Sprint Series. This time around we're here at Silverstone, so it's going to be a very, very interesting race. This one will be for sure. Last time around, if you did miss the first round, we were at Imola, another great circuit and suits these cars to an absolute T. We had a couple of really, really good battles, especially in Hypercar for the final couple of spots on the podium. And in the end, it was Alex Kay who took out the win in Hypercar. And this time around, he is actually a no-show for the second round here. He is away. So this opens up the door to everyone else in the championship for Hypercar Pro to try and claim him, because one of the guys who was showing fantastic pace, just unfortunately was held up in a couple of incidents of Mohamed Colombo, is only 6 points behind and is currently topping the standings as we get that up now on your screen. There you go. There he is. He's got 1.4 seconds over the next car, so he has got plenty of pace around this Silverstone circuit. All the cars are now going to be starting to head into the pit lane very shortly, as the final driver briefing ends up starting with about 5 minutes left of the practice session. Just a few extra notes for the drivers to get on with for their qualifying session. You've got a split qualifying session coming up very shortly after a few ad breaks, and it will be very exciting as we saw in Imola. Just taking a look at the championship though, so after claiming the victory in LMP2, Christian Granero also leads the LMP2 championship ahead of Matt Nipris by 8 points, and in Hypercar AM, you've got Ricky Packham. He's leading the way ahead of Chris Donnelly by 8 points as well. And then in LMGT3 Pro, you've got Tyson Robbs, who won Imola in the overall GT3 standings, and he's leading ahead of Nick Hill by only 8 points as well. In Emblem GT3 AM, you've got Martin Glastonbury, who leads ahead of Race for Life by only 8 points as well. And now the timer has hit to 5 minutes remaining, so that means all the drivers will be in the pit lane and finishing their final flying laps as they head in for their final drivers briefing before qualifying. So we'll be back in a jiffy in time for qualifying after a few messages from our sponsors.
If your organisation shares this belief and are planning to improve driver education in your community, SDT Simulator Driver Training has the solution. Many of our simulator users are also gaining a revenue stream by taking their simulators to events and schools for driver education programs. The system can also be set up to run motorsport simulation. Many leading racing drivers are now using simulators to improve their skills. Such software can also be used to show drivers they are not as skilled as they think they are. SDT Simulator Driver Training is a division of Safe Drive Training, one of Asia Pacific's leading driver training providers. We offer affordable driving simulators that are assembled in our Brisbane head office. SDT simulators are now in use across Australia and are expanding into international markets due to their affordable price, unique features, and customization for driver training. Depending on the simulator model being purchased, you will receive a range of training resources to help you to facilitate quality driver education. SDT is the exclusive distributor of Fatal Vision alcohol impairment goggles, marijuana simulation goggles, and drowsy and distracted blinking goggles. All are used to demonstrate the dangers of such impairments on the driver. Also available are driver training posters, driving handbooks, and distracted driving resources. Our simulators make the perfect training tool for drivers to experience how various impairments affect their performance. Contact Simulator Driver Training for more information.
Motorsport isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. And when performance matters, you need gear you can trust. That's where ARD Importing comes in. ARD Importing brings world-class racing brands straight to New Zealand, supplying real racers, real teams and real enthusiasts with proven performance products around the globe. We're talking JRP racing components, ZAMP helmets and safety gear you can rely on the track, Red Cat Racing for high-performance RC action and intimate brake pads for serious stopping power when it counts most. Keep your engine protected with renewable lubricants, premium oils designed for extreme performance and durability. Turn up the volume with wicked audio, delivering powerful sound whenever the road or track takes you. And gear up with Spartan products built for durability, comfort and race day durability. Whether you're racing dirt, asphalt or chasing lap times from home, ARD Importing has you covered. Sim racers as well, listen up ladies and gentlemen, because ARD New Zealand is your importing source for all of Camus Racing sim gear. Precision wheels, professional grade pedals, immersive feedback that puts you right in the driver's seat. Train harder, race smarter, and feel every corner. From real-world racing to the virtual grid, ardimporting.co.New Zealand connects you with elite brands trusted by racers worldwide.
Welcome back after those couple of ad breaks. We are green for qualifying here for this session now with LMGT3 and LMP2 going out on the circuit together. So this is going to be a split session to allow for the faster categories of the hypercars to make sure they can get themselves a nice clean lap in to not get any traffic, especially around a circuit like this. There's a couple of corners where you're not going to be able to see what car is on the exit of a corner. It's a little bit of a blind exit on a couple, especially on circuit corners or like cops. Sometimes the apex of the corner can get a bit blindsided by the pit wall when you're driving up down that old back main straight. And it's just really important for ourselves here to make sure that we can limit the traffic, but this is some of the things that you're going to be seeing as well. So this is our current championship leader in LMGT3 of Tyson Robbs. He was the first to leave the pit lane, which now means for his first flying lap here, he is mixing it up with the the LMP2 cars, that is, on his flying lap. It looks like, though, they have all seemed to have been able to get themselves safely through a little bit of outlap traffic here from the old pit lane, and we are using the alternative one as well. So you saw there as well the pit lane down the back straight that they used to use back in 2011 previously is now in use for these brilliant cars that we've got on circuit at the moment. And we're watching the outlap here of the Orica 07 Gibson. It's a 4.2 litre V8 producing about 600 horsepower, and it weighs less than 1,000 kilos with a 6-speed sequential. So it is one heck of a car to be able to drive around. So let's jump on board here and see what it looks like through the driver eye. If I can find the right camera, I've gone past it. Oh my god, here we go. The driver eye of this brilliant circuit. So we've just gone through cops now, and this is going to be a really critical run heading through this next section. So it is through Beckett's is the next one, and then the little left-handed kink here to get you onto the hangar straight is Chapel. And this was where I was talking was so critical to make sure that you can get yourself a really good lap here as well, because Ruined Chapel, you can very easily spin it on the exit there if you get it all wrong. And then you need to get that good run down the hangar straight to be able to set up this corner to absolute perfection, which is Stowe. Great overtaking opportunity, but the corner kind of falls away a little bit though. So run too wide and you definitely end up on the AstroTurf and all of the runoff there, which just loses you a ton of time because there's grass not too far away to greet you as well. So as we now go over what is traditionally now the start-finish line to continue into the second half of this lap now, that was down Hamilton straight now through Abbey and Farm and into the braking zone of Village. So this is really important as well because you want to kind of keep the car over to the right. You can see they're not using all of the track there on the exit of Village to open up the loop, so you can get the throttle down as quickly as possible going through Aintree now and onto the Wellington straight as well. So very, very critical corners to get right if you want a maximum lap time here with getting around this Silverstone circuit. Currently riding on board with this is Paul Russell as well. You can see they're driving as well, and he's currently sitting in P1 because he was the first to go across the control line. How is this lap going to fare? It is a 1 minute 49.6, so not too shabby of a lap to open up proceedings here in the first part of this qualifying session. And they've got about 6 minutes left of this one as well, and you can see that immediately actually pipped by Christian Granero, your current championship leader, heading into round 2 in the LMP2 class. So he's already put a second over the field, as now the first lap times for LMGT3 have been coming in as well, with Tyson Robbs immediately going to the top with a 2 minute 0.8. So he's a little bit away from the overall lap record, but lap record pace is not what we're after at the moment. But that is a very, very good lap time, because everyone else so far inside the top 5 of the LMGT3 class is more than 1.5 seconds away. It's only until Collins there, Ben Collins, so just put in a lap time that's 1.6 seconds away. So it's going to be very interesting to see if some of these other drivers can turn up the wick just a little bit and get themselves a bit closer of trying to find themselves here a pole position at this iconic Silverstone circuit, with Tyson Robbs currently leading the way and Christian Granero into the LMP2 class as well. So we've got a few few laps are coming in as well. You've got here Christian Gennaro. He's been on one absolute lap at the moment. He's been putting in a purple first sector. He's a little bit down in at the middle, but you can see there, it looks like he is slowly starting to peel back that time, but you just saw a glimpse of it up ahead as well. There's a bit of lap traffic that he might have to deal with, and the closing speeds of these LMP2 cars to the GT3 cars is actually quite significant. So it's going to be interesting to see if these GT3 cars can get out the way nice and wide there from the Ford Mustang. Is it going to hamper his lap time at all? Is this going to be an improvement, because it was a purple first sector and then lost a bit of time in at the middle? What is he going to do as he crosses the start finish line? It is a big improvement to a 148.4, so a very, very good lap there from Christian Gennaro to absolutely blitz the field, and he's still got over a second to Matt Nipris, who is on his way to now cross the start finish line. He's actually set though a purple middle sector, so he's looking like he could try and go for a pole position if he's got a good lap time here, and he hasn't been able to improve on this second time around, so we're going to have to see how these lap times go around. It might just be a thing here for the field of not being able to improve on a second lap time. These tyres might only be able to survive the one quick lap at a time, and it is looking quite gloomy out there. I have just noticed as well a bit of a British weather hanging around in the area, so we might be seeing some rain as well in this race, which will throw a heap of strategy out the window for a lot of people. They would have already been practicing throughout the week since we were last out at Imola to try and perfect the race strategy. We saw in Imola a lot of very, very late race pit stops to make sure that they come to the line with plenty of speed. And look at this for a livery on the Lexus as well. A bit of caution tape on there to show everyone that he is not here to mess around. Ben Collins currently sitting in at second position, but we'll go back to Tyson Robbs, because I saw there that he's gone better by half a second in the first sector, and that gap between him, because he wasn't able to set down a flyer in at that second lap, that means that his gap between himself and losing pole position is only 0.4 of a second, so it's getting quite close as well into the LMGT3 class here at Silverstone. Is he going to be able to improve, because he's now lost nearly 0.3 of a second into the middle sector? You can see the cars on the slide on the exit there of the Village Corner, and is that going to affect his run now down the Wellington Straight, because the Wellington Straight really starts as soon as you put the power down at the loop, so it's going to be interesting to see if that bit of a slide on the exit of Village is going to hamper any sort of run for him to try and get himself this pole position here for round 2 of the Le Mans Sprint Series hosted by ASA, and it is going to be an absolute cracking one here as well. You can see a couple of names changing up and down the totem pole, but it is still Tyson Robbs and Christian Gennaro leading the way in qualifying here. What is this lap time going to be as we head across the start finish line? And he does improve to a 1 minute 59.9. We are under the 2 minute mark here, ladies and gentlemen, in a GT3 class, which has now put a lot of pressure onto Ben Collins, because he is on a lap at the moment as well, but he is still 1.3 seconds away, and I haven't been able to see his sector times at the moment, so maybe he's on a outlap at this moment in time, but we'll just have to wait and see what the timing tower does as we go across the line. And is it going to be a improvement from himself? No, it's not, but Harry Smiles has actually jumped himself now up into that second position in his BMW, which is a beautiful looking car in the M Sport livery as well. This thing pumps out a massive 590 horsepower with that 3-litre turboed engine that he has got inside of there, so it sounds absolutely awesome as well. And then we have got a few things moving around in the LMP2 class as well, because Christian Gennaro here, he is on a lap. I've just seen this pop up on the timing. He's gone purple and purple, and by the looks of it, he's actually gone identical to his previous lap time in Sector 1 as well. So what's this going to do as he heads towards the start finish line? Can he beat a 48 flat? He can. The new target lap time to beat in the LMP2 class is a 47.8, so that is absolutely rapid pace for these drivers, and he's really not too far away from the real life lap record. Is sometimes in sim racing it can be a little bit tricky to know what lap time you're going to be able to do, because sometimes you can absolutely thrash a lap record and others you can't even come anywhere close. For reference, the LMP2 lap record around here is a 1 minute 43.1, and that was set by Oliver Gray just not too long ago go in an LMP2 car. So we're about 5 seconds away from what the lap times could be, but you can see there Christian Gennaro is looking to try and eclipse that again. He's gone purple once more. Tyson Robbs is on his way to finishing out another lap. He's made massive gains in the middle sector, 6/10 gained and gone purple in the middle. How is this going to handle his lap? Because he's now gone to a 59.5, so absolutely blitzing it, and is going into the pit lane, because we've now gone 10 minutes over into this session, which now means that your pole position sitters are going to be Christian Gennaro and Tyson Robbs for LMP2 and LMGT3, because we have now got the hypercars out on track, ladies and gentlemen, for the remainder of this 10-minute session, and it is going to be a very intense session at this one too, because we saw the margins were fairly close in Imola, so it is going to be a thrilling session. Mattia Porter here was the first one to head out of the pit lane and is currently being listed as first position in his BMW hypercar. So a very good session on the way, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us, because these cars are wicked as well. If you don't know any of them, this BMW specifically as well is a V8 4-litre twin turbo as well, pushing out 650 horsepower as well. So it is absolutely a beast of a vehicle, and also has a 7. All these hypercars have 7-speed sequentials, so it really does give you a bit of a throwback to the early days of Formula 1, that is, when they were still in the 7-gear era, back when Sebastian Vettel was claiming all of those championships. So let's just jump on board here and watch a lap with this hypercar and see how this one fares, because this is going to be a very fascinating a lap to watch as we head on board now with him, and we can now see everything that he is doing in the cockpit, his live speed, what gear he's in, the sector times that he's going to be doing in this lap, and how he is faring with the challenge of Silverstone in these conditions. He's about to start his first flying lap here, so let's ride on board and see how this one goes for Mattia Porter here to set the lap times for the hyperclass in qualifying. He has got just under 8 minutes to get a couple of good laps in here, ladies and gentlemen, so the pressure is absolutely on. It's a really small qualifying session when you think about it in the grand scheme of things as well. And I must say a big thanks to the super chatter as well. It is going to be a fantastic stream, agree with you there, and it is going to be a very fun night indeed. It's a 25-1 for the first one around in the first split, so let's see what he can do in the middle sector as he heads up to Stowe now. And from this angle you can really see what I mean by the track falls away on the exit. It's going to be really challenging to go side by side, but it is one of those prime overtaking opportunities, and so we're going to have to keep a close eye on Stowe Corner as we head through the 1 hour race coming up later on in the evening. Once this qualifying session is all done, it will be a 1 hour sprint race for these cars, and it is going to challenge these drivers to the absolute maximum with these cars, the conditions that we're seeing, because it's not looking like it's clearing up anymore. It is still extremely gloomy out there in England at the moment, the United Kingdom. This circuit located in the Northamptonshire region of the UK, so it is going to be a bit of a challenging one out there if any rain it does decide it's going to rock up. So we're going to have to see what is going to be on the strategy cards. Remember, in Imola it was indeed a late race pit stop was the way to go, but that was very awkward over the curbing there. You can see the car just bouncing around, and it's still two purple sectors for Mattia Porter here, so it doesn't look like too many people around are really eclipsing him though. I can see behind him though, Nando Lotsanzio has been able to eclipse his sector 1 lap time, and where has that going to put him on the totem as the next lot of cars now head on through this first opening lap, and it is going to indeed be Porter still leading the way, but as I said, it was sorry, as I just say that, it is now actually Packham who has jumped up to the top of the session, and is Ricky Packham now leading the way in the hypercar class, and once again also in the BMW in the shell colors. So there is going to be absolutely on for this qualifying session. I can see the comments coming through as well. I am hoping that this comm box is completely sealed out because I do not want this stream to go out. I reckon we're in for a absolutely ripper here, and as you said in the chat as well, there is a 55% chance on the radar for some rain, and as always over in here in the UK, there is going to be something on for everything. We've seen, especially in last year's British Grand Prix in the Formula One, plenty of action throughout the race, and that was all thanks to a little drizzle of rain. In third position here, you've got Chris Fraser, and he's on a lap as well, because you can see going purple in the first sector in the Redwood Pusher here in this one as well. So is he going to be able to challenge a top position here in this qualifying session? You got just over 4 minutes left in this one, so what is going to happen? Because this is really the crunch time now, because with the lap times being up in the 1 minute 40s, there is not much time. If you ruin a lap, you need to keep on pace and just accept the fact that you could possibly lose a bit of time. You can see the car dancing around onto the curbing there as he was heading through Village, I think that he was heading through. It was onto the exit of Abbey and going into Farm. That the car was all over the shot, going over the curbs. It looked extremely unstable, and so maybe that's a bit of a note that needs to be taken. Are you able to use the curbs? Are you able to abuse these curbs to try and get the maximum lap time? Because he's gone purple into the first sector despite it, but now someone has eclipsed his first sector lap time, and so who is that going to be up and down the field? I'm looking at it, and it looks like here it's going to be oh, it's not Rifki. I'm sorry, because on the sector times I've got here, he is so far the fastest in the first sector. So we're going to jump back on board with Chris Fraser here, because he's just finished his lap time. So unfortunately we've missed that one, but he has closed that gap down now into only 3/10, and it's only 300s if he wants to get onto the front row with Ricky Packham here in his BMW, who is also now on a lap time here. What's his first sector lap going to be as we now head through onto the straight here? And maybe he's actually on a bit of an outlap as well, because I'm not getting any splits coming up on the timing. And then Eric Chandra as well is currently leading the way, so we missed this one of Chandra now coming up into the lead in the Peugeot. He's now gone purple in the first sector as well, purple in the middle sector. So this is a lap that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Is he going to be able to pull this one out of the bag and clinch a pole position by making the margin so large? It's already 0.3 of a second in the hypercar qualifying at the moment, and now Colombo has just gone to the top, and the gap for pole position is now only 19 thousandths of a second. It is insanely close here at Silverstone, ladies and gentlemen. Colombo versus Chandra. Chandra's on an absolute flyer though. 2 purple sectors, and he's into the final sector now. So now he's heading into this really tricky set of corners to round out the lap. It's Brooklands now into Luffield, and then he's got Woodcote on the exit. Is he going to be able to handle the exit curbs? He gets out onto the gravel, and you can see the car snap out sideways. Is he going to be able to still claim a pole position to back away? It's purple again, and he does by 0.6 of a second. What a lap, and he's calling it quits with 2 minutes left on the clock. He might be able to claim one more lap in this one. And Mohamed Colombo here is looking to go for another lap as well. So do not be discouraged by the side of his car still saying he's in first position. It just has not updated yet, but he is going purple in the middle sector as well. He needs to find a lot more time though if he wants to challenge for a pole position, because he's now got 0.6 he has to find ahead of Eric Chandra as well. So it's a 0.2 of a second away in the first sector, but he's crawled it back with the purple middle. So it's going to be really interesting to see how much time he's able to gain in this final sector to close that gap up. At this point in time though, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to get a pole position for this race here at Silverstone Circuit, going into these really challenging corners that we spoke so much of. The rear end looked tiny, a little bit of twitchy. Now really quick direction change going into a Luffield, and now can he get the power down? This is where Chandra probably lost a little bit of time. You can see there as well, staying well clear of those exit curves, and now to the line. What is the lap time going to do? It is a improvement, and it is to the top for Colombo by 0.6 of a second. He found a massive amount of time on that lap, and he too is going to be calling it quits in this one as well. So now is Chandra going to be on another lap here? Looks like he is on an out lap. So is he going to be able to actually get this lap going? Because the timing still says he's on an out lap, but I reckon he just across the start finish line. So hopefully this actually updates for us to be able to see it, because this is going to be a lap time here to try and get himself a pole position. He's got another 6/10 he has to find here, ladies and gentlemen, and it is to try and eclipse Mohamed Colombo, who got the second position in Imola. So he is definitely a very, very fast driver in these vehicles. I have just got word from the stewards that it is going to be a penalty for Rees in the LMP2 class as well. A 10-second time penalty because he has been caught impeding in this qualifying session. So it is going to be a time added on to the end of his race. 10-second time penalty added on to the end of his race. So that's unfortunate in qualifying here to already be seeing a penalty on the boards, and you can see that Jay Rees is currently listed as 8th in class at the moment. Eric Chandra, is this lap going to count? I was actually looking at the shorts note, so I didn't take note if he actually made it to the line, but it looks like he has, because he is now he's over a 10th up in the first sector. He's gone purple, so we might have a post flag change here for pole position here at Silverstone, and it's with Eric Chandra here. It is a fantastic opening sector of this circuit. Is he going to be able to continue this one through? Very tricky little downhill chicane. This one is of Vale now through Club onto the Hamilton straight. Is he going to be able to get a good run? It looks like he's had a pretty good run, that is, but he's slightly down in the middle sector, but it's by the barest of margin. It's 8,000ths of a second, and look how unstable the car was going over those curbs that are on the inside of Farm Corner there. It is so unsteady, and he's actually called it quits. He's called it quits. So it looks like Mohamed Colombo is on pole position here for Silverstone later on, after we have a few ad breaks for this one, as the field gets ready. Another quick driver pen as well, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to the race start. So we'll be back in a quick jiffy for race time here in Silverstone.
Sensational TV has proudly partnered up with Speed Nation. It is New Zealand's go-to destination for high-performance sim gear. They also stock the best and biggest brands in the game, from Thrustmaster, Moser Racing, Next Level Racing, Sparko, Turtle Beach. And whether you're looking for the ultra-responsive racing wheels, or pro-grade flight controls, immersive audio, or rock-solid cockpits, I'll tell you what, Speed Nation has got it all. They also carry other trusted names like Butt Kicker, PT Actuators, Wheel Stand Pros, Gen Ace, Spectrum in the remote control field, and also Collective Mind. So every step and part of your setup is covered, from complete racing rigs and premium flight packs. We here at Sensational TV, back in Speed Nation, to deliver the gear that takes your experience to the next level. Fast shipping, trusted brands, unbeatable quality, and I'll tell you what, Speed Nation has it all. And as an excellent gift for all of our viewers tonight and members out there of Sensational TV, and if you're trying to get into racing, go to the checkout, buy some stuff off Speed Nation, because if you buy any full price product on the website, enter the code SIMSATIONAL, that is SIMSATIONAL. Oh my God, I can't even speak. And you will get a 10% discount off your end cart price. So go in there.
10%? 10%, did you say?
I did say 10%, mate. I did not
goodness.
say 5. I did not say 4. I said 10. Wow.
Welcome back. We are not far away from a race start here in this next edition of the LMU ASA Super Sprint Championship. We have got a grid to run through as the cars now line up. So let's take a look at how the drivers line up for this one. It is going to be Eric Chandra on the front row, but he was eclipsed by Mohamed Colombo as well. So we're going to take a look now at the second row. It's Nando Lozano as well in third position with Ricky Packham and Mattia Porter, and then Chris Fraser rounds out the next row of the hypercar grid with Afiat and Fernando on the next one in the Toyota and Ferrari respectively. Two very, very quick cars out there as well. And then it is Lee Perkins and Siramana to round out the hypercar field as we now head into the LMP2 cars, with Christian Gennaro taking the pole position with Matt Nipris on the front row with himself, and Paul Russell, Tom Jones to take out the next one. Matthew Marsh and Sam Austin, they will be on the third row of the grid in 5th and 6th in class. And then it is going to be Matt Frost and Jay Rees with the next row. And Jay Rees, remember, has a 10-second penalty now hanging over his head at the end of the race for impeding in qualifying. And then it is to Dean Davis to round out the LMP2 field, with Tyson Robbs claiming the pole position with Harry Smiles and Martin Glastonbury on next, and then it's Ben Collins and Nick Hill for the next row. And then John Phipps and Hosa as well in the next row for P6 and P7. And then it is Lloyd and then Jackson Hammond in the next row of the grid in the Corvette and McLaren, two very well represented cars. And then Jared Brock, Miles Johnston on the grid as well, with on my screen as well with Norwich and Sam currently still sitting in the pit lane. So this will be interesting to see how this one goes about. But we're getting ready now for the start of this one. It's a 1 hour sprint race, ladies and gentlemen, coming up here at Silverstone. So let's get ready to go racing as they now make their way towards the front stretch of this one. Remember, using the alternate front stretch, the old front stretch from back in the day of 2011. So the first corner for them will be Cops, and it is going to be all on here in the hypercar class. And we're ready to go racing here, and it's green flag time. And it is looking like to be a pretty good start here, but I've just noticed that Chandra is in the pit lane. Chandra is not on our track, so our pole sitter, our second place sitter has not made it to the start of the race, and so that is going to hand the lead to Mohamed Colombo, and he is going to take it under challenge, going through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel now. So it's been a dream scenario here for Colombo in his Alpine, as he now powers ahead to already over a second ahead of Laziano, who now takes ahead of second position, leading that next train of hypercars in his Peugeot with Matt Nipris also right behind. He's still leading the way in the LMP2 cars, but he has got Gennaro all over the back of him. Gennaro lost the lead after claiming that pole position, so is he going to be able to take it now down the inside into the chicane? Is he going to be able to pull this one? Because that is Gennaro still holding it around the outside. How is this one going to go ahead? And it looks like it is going to be still side by side, and you can see that all they're doing is holding each other up, and because now the GT3 cars are being able to climb themselves into this battle pack as well. But it is going to be Gennaro who takes the lead back away from Matt Nipris, but behind Nipris now under attack from Paul Russell, and he gets spun. Multiple cars are going around. It's absolute carnage in the LP2 class, and there is Eric Chandra as well from the front row. He's now making his way back through the field, so he must have been late to start the race, and that was an awkward rejoin. It is an awkward rejoin because now they have just hit our third place car in the GT3 cars, and so hopefully there's not too much damage there, but that was messy. That was very, very messy. It all started with a late dive bomb down the inside going into a village corner, and that could have ended much worse, but luckily it looks like all cars have been able to get away just a little bit, but there's definitely some witness marks on a few of these cars now. For the remainder of this race, you can see there a few witness marks on this car that we're watching on screen now. Matt Nipris, he has been in the absolute thick of it, and we are only now crossing the line to finish lap one. So what a lap one we have had, and just to recap what has happened in this first lap. So you've got Colombo, who was sprinted out to an early lead after being unchallenged with a Eric Chandra, who was a no-show for the start of this race, but has since joined the session and now sits in 17th position overall, but he's 10th in class, which is really going to hurt. And that's leading the way ahead of Laziano, who has taken that second position in the Peugeot, and Mattia Porter will be comfortable in his third position with a fellow BMW right behind. And then for the LMP2 cars, This is where we really saw it kick off. It was Christian Gennaro and Tom Jones battling it out, but Tom Jones is actually a big beneficiary here because he was a little bit further down, now finds himself in second position, but he's got Sam Austin right behind to pick up any scraps if they start battling up ahead, and he is definitely going to be looking to try and improve his position. And here is Eric Chandra that we've been speaking so much about. He's still sitting in 10th position for the hypercar class, but has now worked his way up to 15th, so he's going to be trying to carve his way through the field as quickly as possible for himself here. And is he going to be able to do it cleanly? We saw in Imola there was a few cars that weren't able to really get themselves through as quickly as they probably would have liked, got a little bit desperate, and then we saw incidents occur in Imola. But Imola's a much tighter circuit, a little bit less room to play with than the wide tarmac that is here in Silverstone. And then for the LMGT3 cars, you've got Tyson Robbs leading the way, as we got very used to in Imola. He's already got over 2 seconds of a race lead ahead of Harry Smiles in his BMW, and then you've got Nick Hill in third position to round out your top three in LMGT3. But what a race we have got on already, because it got really exciting last time around when we had cars like Eric Chandra who were trying to make their way back through the field, and that opened up the door to alternate strategies that we did see a little bit. We saw a few cars that opted to take a very early pit stop and try and gain a bit of track position with a very aggressive undercut on the field, and for some it worked, for some it did not, but most of the field went for the late race pit stop that was. And now taking a look here at the timings, I can see Mohamed Colombo has now actually extended his lead to 2.5 seconds, so he's really on it at the moment, and he's been able to pull away from the Peugeot of Nando Latiana. So it's going to be quite comfortable for Colombo at the moment, but be assured it's going to be anything from comfortable. As we saw in that qualifying session, lots of cars that were getting really risky on these exit curves, and you can see how risky it can get on that curve. That curve there has been the real challenging one, and a couple of the sausage curves as well around the circuit, really throwing these cars around, because these cars run super stiff suspension setups, so no wonder that these cars have been struggling with the curb usage around here. Definitely more curbs to use than last time around at Imola. And taking a look now at the LP2 cars, because Gennaro, now that he's lost the challenge of a couple of the other cars of Paul Russell and Matt Nifris, who was unfortunately caught up in that scuffle, he is now well and truly dipped out ahead, and he's now got a lead of 5.5 seconds. But this is a little interesting battle, because this is between Matt Nifris and Jay Rees, this battle here, and Jay Rees, as I mentioned, does have a penalty still hanging over his head of 10 seconds, so just keep that in mind when we get to the checkered flag, and I'm sure there may be another penalty or two coming in the ways after that opening lap incident that we saw. And I feel like I've barely taken a breath, and looking at the times, we have only gone through 6 minutes of this race, so we are in for an absolute ripper of a race in this one for sure. But taking a look here, we've got a bit of a battle now between Martin Glastonbury and Nick Hill, forming up here in the LMGT3 cars, and this is for a battle for the final spot of the podium. It's still very early days in this race, but there is still plenty to fight for, and lose too much time in the opening parts, you will be paying for it as you get on later on into this race, and it is going to be something that is going to be on the back of all the drivers' minds as well. But another really tight battle pack at the moment is this train behind Mattia Porter. Mattia Porter in third position, but he's got Ricky Packham, Chris Fraser, and Zaka Saramana all right behind him in a little bit of a train here, and it could really tip off as well if one of these guys makes a mistake. But most notably, the two BMWs right behind each other, the gap only about 0.2 of a second going through the corners. It stretches out by another 0.2 by the time they get onto the straight. But that is just as the way racing works, and hopefully these guys will start battling it out pretty soon for ourselves to have an absolute ripper, because this is also, take note, for the final spot on the podium. And I just saw in the background as well, those clouds are looking a little bit menacing, so maybe there could be a bit of rain on the cards. Remember, it was mentioned 55% of a chance to get some rain here in Silverstone, so it wouldn't be unusual to have a little bit of British weather on the way here tonight. And Mahaba Colombo is still stretching out that lead now to nearly 5 seconds, so he is absolutely on it, and now definitely unchallenged by Eric Chandra, who, mind you, is now just about to break inside the top 10 overall, currently sitting in 11th position on the road, 10th in class, and currently sits 9 seconds behind Christian Granaro in that LMP2 car, so he's got a bit of work to find himself up and down the field, and you can see in the background this battle is starting to shape up a little bit nicely as well. You got the Peugeot climbing all over the back of the Porsche, and down the inside he's going to go. Sorry, the mic cut out just a little bit. There's a little bit of contact as well going down the inside. That is Siramana trying to get the mover done. Is he going to be able to get it done? No, he can't, and that is not going to be 5th position just yet ahead of Chris Fraser, but this is definitely heating up. He's now going to get the benefits of the slipstream, but they can't battle too hard because they've got the Ferrari of Affiat right behind them. And is this going to bring it in to make it a 3-car really tight battle here? You can see Fraser running a little bit wide heading through Brooklands, that was, and that's now going to tighten up Luffield just a little bit. And will this allow the Peugeot to get a good run? You can see how close they are heading down this straight now, and is there going to be a little cheeky move on into Cops? It'll be a very audacious move. He can get it done. He sits behind, and that is all sheer road just for the moment, because you can't really go side by side through here. You've got to be very, very brave and a bit ballsy if you want to try and go side by side through this section of corners. But if you do get it right, it is super satisfying. Both the cars on the power slide trying to get out of there as quickly as possible, and you can see ahead we're now catching some lap traffic of the LMGT3 cars. Both the BMWs of Porter and Packham ahead, going through quite nicely, catching him on the straight, and they are going to make it through nicely. This is a little bit more awkward though to catch him, because does he dare make it 3 wide? No, he doesn't. The GT3 car does get out the way quite nicely though, and this battle will continue on for a moment. And the gap now extending out just a little bit, so and now they're making their way through the lap traffic. This is where the battles start getting a little bit interesting, because you can really go for a bit of a cheeky move as down the inside he goes. Can he make it done? A little bit audacious of that one would have been. It was definitely opportunistic, but the door was slammed shut by Chris Fraser. You can see the blue flags are waving galore up ahead as they try now to make it through this GT3 field, and it is going to be really awkward timings to catch some of these cars, especially through the twisty parts of this circuit. A little bit of contact there for the Porsche though on that Corvette, trying to squeeze their way through. You can see the brake disc absolutely glowing heading through these big braking zones. So that is, and look at that, Affiat in the background. He has been able to climb up the order just a little bit. You can see the car. He's now only 1.2 seconds behind, so he's been able to make his way through the lap traffic a little bit nicer than these two guys on your screen have been able to. So this is really bringing himself now into this battle pack as well, but the gap's now extended to about half a second because Siramana here was unable to get through one of those lap cars a little bit nicer. We're going to jump on board with a car here, so let's actually jump on board here with Chris Fraser, because he has been absolutely on it, and you can see that. Oh, that's actually a little bit of rain. A little bit of rain has been rocking up. You can see the windscreen wipers are going galore, and the rain is falling on the windshield. What is this going to do to the grips on the circuit? You can see the Peugeot, the headlights, the menacing headlights all over in the back of the mirror as well. So if you want a little bit more drama in a race, add a splash of water, and that is exactly what has happened here, ladies and gentlemen. The heavens have opened up, and we are in for an absolute thriller, because look at the gap. He's gone defensive around the outside. What is this going to do? He's gone wide, but where's the other car gone? Where's Siramana gone? I reckon he's run wide, because look how far back behind he is, and he's now got Affiat all over the back of him. I reckon he's been caught out by the wet weather, because the windshield wipers are going on all these cars now. The rain has fallen, and it is now a absolute thrilling standings that we've got now. You can see all the cars still trying to get out the way, but it's going to be so awkward, because now they're going to have to go offline where there's no grip, and especially now the rain's falling. That's just going to make it even more treacherous to try and get out of the way of all of these cars, and this is just amped up this race massively. And look at this battle pack that we've got in the LMP2 class. So the race still being held in the lead by Christian Granaro, And he's got a huge lead over Tom Jones here of 12 seconds. But we're focusing here on Matt Nippers because he's got a bit of a battle. And that's a GT3 car that's just gone off in the background. That was down on the grass. And that looks like maybe a mistake on the exit there of Aintree. Very easy to drop a wheel and go for a spin. We've seen it in real life and many times on the sim. But this battle pack is definitely heating up just a little bit. Nippers has been able to pull ahead just slightly. He's now pulled 0.8 of a second ahead. But this battle pack is really heating up with Jay Frost and Russell now also trying to get themselves through this field a bit as well. It's a 3-car battle pack heading into Maggots Beckett's, and look at that very awkward timing to catch some lap traffic that was of Matt Nippers. You can see they're nearly rear-ending the Corvette going through Maggots and Beckett's, and that could have ended terribly for him. It was terrible timing to catch a bit of lap traffic. And the battling is going to continue on here as well. Down the inside he goes. That's Frost now trying to get the move done, and he has been able to get it done on Sam Austin. But the battling is continuing. Is Austin now going to lose another position to Paul Russell, because Russell's now going down the inside, nearly rear ends Frost, but he gets the move done. So Sam Austin, he has lost a couple of positions here, and maybe not up to grips quite yet with these conditions that we're currently facing on these roads of Silverstone at the moment. So it's going to create very interesting conditions as well, and if this rain does increase, it is going to definitely spice up your strategy game just a little bit here as well. I've also just received more word from the stewards that in the GT3 car class we've got a time penalty for Hoser on your screen right now, and it's a 5-second time penalty for contact on lap 1. So the stewards have viewed the replays, they've viewed the angles, and deemed Hoser here was at fault for a little bit of contact on the opening lap, and he has received a 5-second time penalty in this race. But we're going to jump back to this battle with Paul Russell, because he's now all over the back of Frost, who was able to make up a couple of quick positions as they now head down to start yet another lap here in Silverstone, and they're now catching once again a bit of lap traffic heading into Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel. So this is going to be really interesting to see how they navigate these lap cars. There's more GT3 traffic up the road, and how is this one going to play out? We nearly saw it end dramatically with Matt Nippers and just further up the road, and he's been able to really pull away. He's now 2.3 seconds up ahead. The GT3 car very nicely getting out the way, but that's opened up the door now actually for an overtake here, possibly for Paul Russell, because it was a poor run out of there for Frost. Is he going to be able to make a dive down the inside at Stone? No, he doesn't. He thinks much better of it and doesn't go for the move. The next overtaking opportunity though is just down here at the bottom of this hill into this chicane of Vale. And he does look down the inside. How's this one going to go? It's Frost, and Frost has been able to get through because Paul Russell's now just gone for a bit of a spin, and that is going to be terrible for his race, because now the tyres are going to be dirty, especially with these wet conditions. That car is going to be an absolute handful, and he has also lost a position to Sam Austin, but it is going to be Frost, the big beneficiary here, because he's now unchallenged in that 4th position, with Paul Russell now down in 6th position in class. So the dramatic scenes here in the LMP2 class for this next one here. And with the drama that's been going on, a person I've been watching closely going up and down the timings here is Eric Chandra, because we saw him miss the start of the race, and he has now got himself up into 8th position in class and overall as well. He's now 20 seconds behind the next car, so he's got a big day ahead of him if he wants to be able to try and get himself further up in this one as well. So let's see how he goes in this race. But up ahead, Siramana has now closed the gap once more up to the back of Chris Fraser. We saw a mistake earlier on when the rain really started to fall down just a little bit, and ran wide going through into Village after looking around the outside, but got a bit more tire temperature back in and is now able to try and challenge for this top 5 position once more. Currently sitting in 6th position overall and in class in the Peugeot, all over the back of the Porsche. So this is one that's going to be really interesting to see how this one goes. I've noticed we've had a couple of people in the pit lane now as well. So mainly we've got Tom Jones, who was able to get a position out of the incident with Paul Russell and Frost, and he's now found himself in the lane, as well as Sam Austin also coming in for a pit stop. So they've fallen down the order in the LMP2 class, but expect them to maybe try and go for a bit of an undercut in this one. As we go further into the race, we've got 42 minutes left on the clock, so we have absolutely been blitzing through this race. It has been fantastic to watch. This battle, though, is definitely heating up between Siramana and Chris Fraser, and he's looking like there's a really good run. Don't you say they're going to go side by side. He pulls out of it, so very nicely done, but it does look like the upper hand is on at the moment with this Peugeot, looking like it's a much better car in these tricky, greasy conditions with a little bit of rain currently falling on the windshield, and the wipers are still going at it, so there's definitely still a bit more water going in there. You can see since we were last on board, the intensity of the rain has definitely picked up just a little bit, and there's a car off. You saw that at the bottom of the shot there. There's a car off, and we're going to have to try and work out who that was, but there was a car off in the background. You saw the big plume of smoke, and I'm trying to work out who that possibly could have been, and it looks like it could have been Glastonbury. Oh no, he's gone into the pit lane, but someone was just falling down the order of that one, and I was thinking that may have could have been them. But back to the battle here of Sermana and Chris Fraser. We've got definitely a few pit stops happening now up and down the field. Lee Perkins and Fernando in the hypercar class have also popped into the pit lane, but you can see this one definitely intensifying as they now catch some of the LMP2 lap traffic as well. So that has kind of spread out this one a bit, because Sermana was stuck behind him going through this section of the circuit, and then now up and down the field you've got a pretty good battle here at the moment. It's Jay Rees actually getting by Dean Davids in the pit lane. So a few pit stops happening up and down the field. You got a few in hypercar, you got a few in the LMP2 class, and I'm not too sure yet if anyone has been able to take a pit stop. Yes, we've got a few pit stops actually happening on here in GT3. You've got Jono Phipps here. He's 8th in class at the moment, and he is in the pit lane. You can see that one of the hypercars also in the lane to take their pit stop, and I reckon that is Mattia Porter, and it is indeed Mattia Porter from a 3rd position is now in the lane. And a few other cars as well in the background also coming in for a stop. So it looks like they're all going to be jumping onto some new tires. And what tires are they going to be jumping onto? We're able to see what they jump onto thanks to these graphics that the game provides, and you can see actually this is really interesting, because it's Leziano who has now put on the wet weather tires. So they've gone for a bit out of sync with everyone else. I'm trying to see if I can spot anyone else running the wets. Mattia Porter is also running the wets. Is Granero, your race leader in LMP2, is also in the lane. What tire is Granero going to be selecting for this one here? We'll be able to see just a moment. The car has been dropped off of the jacks, but there is a little bit of a minimum time that has to be met in this series. As now that's Eric Chandra there, you can see in the Peugeot. He's also leaving the lane, so he's found himself in a decent position after having a bit of a incident at first stop, and the car's now back up onto the jack. So it looks like actually up and down the field a few people are going onto those wets. You can see Chris Fraser has now also opted for those wet weather tires on screen now in his Porsche, and he is trying to see if he can perform any sort of undercut on those ahead who hadn't yet come into the lane. You can see a bit of a tire smoke there as well, so someone's had a bit of a moment just ahead. So let's see how all of these go ahead. And as I was thinking, maybe Granero has definitely come in and put on those wet weather tires, because from what I can gather, the rain intensity has definitely picked up. Riding on board with Granero here, you can see that is definitely getting much more wet, and this is going to be a much more of a challenging race for the drivers. Now I'm sure they would have been trying to go for a similar strat of box very late, but this weather has thrown an absolute spanner into the works for all of their strategies. Colombo is now into the lane from the lead of the race. Oh sorry, he is actually exiting the lane, and so he's going to maintain the lead. He too is also on the wet weather tires. So how is this going to fare? He's got a bit of lap traffic up ahead, and this is the absolute closing speeds that we've been mentioning so far all stream, and this is with the LMP2 cars as well. So the deficit between those two isn't really as dramatic as the GT3 cars. Down the main straight though, or sorry, the hangar straight, this is definitely where the hypercar has a heap of extra pace above the LP2 cars, and you can see they're all just trying to find a little bit of grip where they can, and Colombo will hold on to this race lead in the hypercar class with a few of the pit stops now out of the way. But Tyson Robbs, your race leader in the LMGT3 class, we haven't seen too much of him because he absolutely bolted out to over 30 seconds of a race lead, and I think he is also the final car in LMGT3 to do a pit stop. So it will be interesting to see if there was any sort of undercut gain for Harry Smiles. Where is he on the circuit at the moment? He's about to head into the final sector, so he doesn't have too long to see if he's going to be able to get himself now up into a provisional race lead. He's only got a couple of corners and the straight to go to see where this one goes. Tyson Robbs is now exiting the lane. This is actually going to be a little bit closer, I reckon, between the rejoin, because here comes Harry Smiles. He's got an LMP2 car to deal with. You've got Tyson Robbs. He is now exiting the pit lane, but he's going to be on cold tyres, so he's going to have to get those up in temperature. There goes that LMP2 car, and here is Harry Smiles. So we have got a bit of a battle now on for the lead of LMGT3, because you've got Harry Smiles with a warmer up to temperature tyres ahead of Nick Hill is in third. He's a further few seconds behind, but Tyson Robbs now has to get these up to temperature as quickly as he can, because Harry Smiles is a very quick operator in these GT3 cars, and he's got that second that gap now down to 3 seconds. You can see him there in the back of shot. So this is going to get really interesting, and to see how well these cars handle on those wet weather compound of tyre up and down the field now in the LMP2 cars. You've got Paul Russell making his way through the GT3 cars as the lapping continues in this race, and he was actually quite close to Matt Nippers just ahead, but unfortunately with the timing that he caught that lap traffic, wasn't able to try and make a move. In fact, he's ended up just losing a ton of time instead, and we're now watching back with Siramana, because look at this for a battle. They've caught to the back of Afia in that blue Ferrari, and it is absolutely on now between these two. Afia has shown some pretty good pace, but hasn't been able to break inside that top 5 as of yet so far in this race. Chris Fraser, who's also battling it out with Siramana here, has bolted ahead. He's got 6 seconds over the top of these two. How's this battle going to go out? Because down the inside at Stowe, this is a really challenging place to make an overtake. As I said, the track falls away on the exit. They end up not making any position changes because Afia has got the better grip around the outside. The rain continues to fall, but down the inside comes Siramana. They continue to go side by side around the outside. Can they make it through? No, he gets the squeeze by the Ferrari, and that was excellent battling, and this one is nowhere near done as well, because the pace is definitely on Siramana's side. We saw that battling it out with Chris Fraser, who again, as I mentioned, is about 6 seconds further up the road. But as I've been saying that, I've now noticed the timing. The gap is starting to come down just a little bit between that is Chris Fraser and Afgit. So maybe even despite the battling, they've got the better race pace over Chris Fraser into these wet conditions. Maybe the Porsche not too up to scratch in these conditions. Maybe Chris Fraser himself struggling a little bit in these changing conditions, because it's not fully raining as of yet. As we take another quick weather update by looking through the windshield, it's actually getting there quite wet. You can see a bit of a greasy effect now on the circuit, and very wide goes Afia into the Ferrari, and you can see how twitchy the car is. A little bit of opposite lock. Stay away from the curb, because that's going to be very, very slippery. Now with a bit of added moisture onto the circuit here at Silverstone, but this battle is going to continue battling it out, I reckon, for some time. Up and down the field though, you've got Sam Austin, I've just noticed in the LP2 cars, has also DNF. So we've had a few DNFs so far in this one. You've got Jackson Hammond, Johnston, and now Sam Austin DNFing from this race, with Sam and Norwich now currently inside the pit lane as well. So we're going to have to see how this one all plays out in fact, and it's going to be actually Colombo. I've just noticed he's lost a ton of time through the pit stop cycle. His gap is now about 10 seconds. It was a little bit further than that, but here we go. The battle is once again on, going for a little bit of a different line this time around, through the corner and down the hill. Has got a better opportunity now. They're trying to hang it around the outside, and squeezing all the way to the inside is Siramana in the Peugeot. And look at how taily they get. They make a bit of contact, they straighten each other out, and this battling is so good on the curb. That's very brave to use the curb in these conditions. Now going side by side into Abbey. How is this one going to pan out? It's going to be Siramana who makes the position and takes that away, and he's now back up into 6th position. But here comes the Ferrari. Is the Ferrari able to go and do anything? And that's a spinner there. That is a spinner for the Lexus I just saw as well. Trying to think about who that one was, and that is a very unfortunate there for that driver, unfortunately for themselves, but it looks like hasn't cost them a massive amount of time. They've just lost a bit of time to these hypercars are still making their way through the field as we now approach the half lap distance. And this is how the race is shaping up. You've got Mohamed Colombo leading the way and has been unchallenged all race, and is now on those wet weather tyres. The entire field is now on the wets, with Nando Laziano in 2nd place and in the Peugeot as well. The Peugeot is looking absolutely rapid as well, with Mattia Porto in the BMW in 3rd position, finds themselves a further 10 seconds behind, so very comfortably in a 3rd position because they've got 6 seconds further behind as well to Ricky Packham in 4th position. For the LMP2 cars, you've got Christian Canero also completely unchallenged, 15 seconds into the lead ahead of Frost, with Tom Jones rounding out your podium, making his way through the field of the GT3 cars, and is a further 15 seconds behind, and also has 6 seconds behind. And then it's Tyson Robbs just in front as well. He's leading the GT3 cars by 4 seconds. We thought there may have been a battle with Harry Smiles on as well, because Harry Smiles have played his pit stop cycle to perfection, I must say, and was able to gain a massive amount of time against Tyson Robbs, who had a huge lead heading into the pit stop cycle, and has closed the gap to 4 seconds, but it was 3, so I reckon the pace isn't quite there to battle with Tyson Robbs as of yet. And you've got Nick Keel at the moment riding it out in 3rd position, and he's got only 2 seconds behind to Mark Glastonbury, who is in a 4th position. So let's ride on board with your overall race leader as I take a momentary break in commentary to take a bit of a sip of water. So enjoy a lap here of Silverstone with your race leader with a little bit of water as well. Well, how was that for a lap? We were really able to see the type of conditions that it is out there. Looks like the rain has eased just a little bit for our race leader here. The windshield wipers are not going at the moment, but the conditions are still very much treacherous in this part of the circuit as well. You saw plenty of snaps of oversteer for your race leader, that is Mahaba Colombo, in the hypercar class as well, leading ahead of Laziano as well, and by 13 seconds. So while we were on board, absolutely stretched out that lead despite those couple of things there. And you can see as well, I reckon now the track is starting to dry. You saw a dry line. We're seeing cars now starting to move off the racing line once more, just there again as well, to cool down the tyres, which is an effect in this game. Your tyres can overheat, so driving it through the moistness that is still remaining on the circuit will bring those tyre temperatures back down and put them back into a bit of more of a more comfortable operating window. That is for these cars as well. So definitely a lot of strategy out there on board, and you can see, oh, he's made a mistake because he's run wide and had to take the shortcut. And so there is a, do not discount that Colombo is still absolutely thrashing this car around and trying to get as big of a win as possible, despite already leading by 13 seconds, now 14 seconds, with 26 minutes left of the race. The rear end of the car getting all taily as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these drivers play out the strategy, because I very well could think that if the weather's going to hold off just for a little bit, we may see drivers start coming in for some dry tyres if they feel that there's going to be nearly spinning it as well, if there's going to be no more weather interfering with this race. But Colombo's going to go around for yet another lap and up and down the field. We have got some interesting things starting to brew along. So we were taking note previously of this driver here, Siramana, who was battling it out with Afia, who has now fallen 10 seconds behind, and unfortunately for Siramana here as well in the Peugeot, hasn't been able to close the gap to Chris Fraser, who was in a very, very intense battle with the Peugeot of Siramana as well, but finds himself 6 seconds up the road from that P6 car. So they're sitting very comfortably in 5th and are now closing to the back of a LMP2 car that is as well. So plenty of lap traffic as well, also heading around the circuit. We also saw a battle brewing as well between Paul Russell and Tom Jones, but that gap has also extended out to 8 seconds between those two. So the battle for the podium has kind of died off just a little bit now, just taking a bit of a pause as they go through these always changing conditions that is this Silverstone circuit. So we've always got something happening around this place, and you can see they're now getting lapped once more. That is by Chris Fraser in the Porsche. So the very interesting strategy to play out, I think, further along the race that we go as well. You've got Eric Chandra, who missed the start of the race, fell to absolute plum blast, has worked his way through all of the lap cars. That is the LMP2 cars, that's the LMGT3 cars. Now finds himself sitting quite comfortably inside the top 8 of the hypercar class and the overalls as well, but still has to find another 3 seconds to be able to make the top 7 finishing position, and that is to try and catch the Ferrari of Afia on your screen now. And so that Ferrari there is the next car on the list for Eric Chandra, and you can see that getting it very awkward on the curb, trying to make their way through all of this lap traffic. That's an LMP2 car now getting out of the way for Chandra. Is he going to be able to dispatch a GT3 car as quickly as he liked? That looked a little bit more awkward than it probably should have been, but at the end of the day still gets their way through quite nicely, and the GT3 car also getting out the way of that LMP2 car as well as this race continues on here at Silverstone. Your race leader Tyson Robbs, though, in the GT3 class, has still been able to extend his race lead against Harry Smiles, but it's probably not as much as you probably would have thought as well, because the gap is 6.5 seconds to Harry Smiles in that BMW, and you can see there, so at some points of the circuit, Harry Smiles is still going to be able to see the race leader of Tyson Robbs, and Smilesy has also been able to pull away from Nick Hill, who is now just coming through into this set of corners as well. So we've got a few things coming on in, and I've just also seen that we have got another penalty, and this is for an LMP2 car, and this is for Russell, who has made contact on lap 1. So I said at the start of the race that that big kerfuffle that we saw heading into a village corner may have some implications further down the race, whether it be penalties or damage to some of those cars. And unfortunately here for Paul Russell, it is in the shape of a 5-second time penalty for himself for his involvement in that one. So very unfortunate for Paul Russell. Currently finds himself in 3rd in the LMP2 class, 13th overall. So it's not a bad day in the office. He does have, though, well and truly over 5 seconds. So his penalty is well and truly covered, because Tom Jones is 19.5 seconds further behind in 4th position. So yeah, unfortunate stuff to see penalties being thrown away so far in this race. We haven't had as many as we have in Imola. That was a little bit messy with the shorter, tighter circuit trying to make their way through the lap field, the lap traffic, and that just caused a little bit of chaos up and down, whether it's LMP2 cars lapping GT3 or, you know, the different classes interfacing with each other. But back to Chandra here, because the gap is ever closing. It's now 2.4 seconds between himself and Afia. So Eric here is definitely on a charge to try and get himself further up. It's nonetheless, it's a fantastic drive, considering missing the start and fighting their way through all the lap traffic in the first part of the opening laps, and then having to, at one point, it was about 30 seconds they needed to get at least back into the hypercar field on the timings. So a very, very good drive, showing the amount of pace that they have got, despite only just missing out on a pole position. So we know there's plenty of pace in this car. We know there's plenty of pace for Eric Chandra, but we just need to see how far he can take it in this race. But if he does get by Afiat's now fallen 11 seconds behind Siramana. So that battle that looked like would last for a little bit, unfortunately hasn't planned out that way, with now it being over 12 seconds between Afiat and Siramana. But you can see the gap ever closing, because it's now less than 2 seconds between Chandra and that Ferrari on track now, going through Stowe. So expect this battle to kick off in a few laps time, ladies and gentlemen. But in the GT3 field, we've got a pit stop happening here at the moment, so this is going to be interesting to see what happens here. Is this going to be a driver going in for a set of dries with just under 20 minutes left on the track? And it looks like we've already got one driver of Jones who's gone for the medium compound tyres in the LMP2 class, and is currently sitting in 5th position. So missed that one. But what are the tyres going on for Glastonbury? We'll find out in just a moment when the totem pole decides it will update, and he's actually fallen off of the timing there. So let's just switch this around to the GT3 standings, so then we'll be able to see the full field of what is going on. And you can see that we've had a couple of DNFs, but we've got a few people in the pit lane as well. So where is Glatsbury going to be pulling out? And he is indeed on the mediums as well. So we've got some dry tyre runners now starting to make their way through the field. So this is going to be really interesting, because we have got plenty of people up and down the field who will be wanting to try and get themselves a good undercut here, if they can, by going for a undercut, going to the dries sooner when the pace is going to be absolutely on it a bit sooner. So, well, let's keep an eye on drivers like Colombo. It's going to be very, very important for him to make sure that he can get onto the right tyres at the very right time. As one of the hypercars has gone a little bit wide, that was one of the BMWs, possibly Lee Perkins, and it was Lee Perkins just getting out of the way, because they've now gone a lap down after coming in for a stop, and they're still also running the wet weather tyres, mind you, as well. Christian Gennaro leading the way in the LMP2 class as well, still on the wet weather tyres. So at the moment in LMP2, it's Jones in 5th position, who is about to get lapped by Gennaro was on those medium compound tyres, the dry weather compound tyres, and so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I think Canaro may have just popped it into the lane, and he has, because he fell out of shot in the background. So I'm going to keep an eye on the totem here for you, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that we don't miss one of these very crucial pit stops here, because it's not too often that in a 1 hour sprint we get 2 rounds of pit stops. Will some drivers try and see if they can't hang it out for the remaining time of 17 minutes and 32 seconds, and see if they can't try and go to the end on the wet weather tyres? That will be a very tall order. But it looks like, though, the track is still a little bit wet. You can see here definitely in the pit lane, a little bit of spray still getting picked up, and there's still a little bit of a greasiness effect on the circuit, and there's still a very visible dry line. So there's still definitely a bit of moisture out on the circuit as it stands. And your second place car of Frost has also now come into the lane, so this is going to be interesting now to see what Jones falls into this field as well, because he was the first of the LMP2 cars to make a pit stop to go onto dry weather tyres. So he's going to get ahead of Matt Frost. Is he going to be able to make his way further up the field? Because as they now head through, my brain's got myself confused with the pit lanes again. So he's probably not going to be able to get ahead of Frost, actually, sorry. So he's only just coming through now the Hamilton Straight and going on to Wellington Straight now. So it's going to be a bit of a tall order to get ahead of Frost, because Frost is now leaving the pit lane, and he will lose a position to Matthew Marsh, who is still on those wet weather tyres. But crucially, Granero, your race leader, is on those dry tyres. Frost is now on the dries as well, and so is Tom Jones. But unfortunately for himself, in this tight twisty part, has found himself stuck behind one of the hypercars. Well, not so much stuck, but really up close behind, so that can sometimes create a little bit of an aero wash on the LMP2 cars. So interesting to see how this one all plays out with tyre strategies. And Harry Smiles, your second place car, once again going for a bit of a undercut in this one, because he pit before Tyson Robs, that was as well, in the first round of pit stops, and is now going to be on the next round as well before Tyson Robs too as well. So the gap was about 7 seconds when he came into the lane. He will lose a position to Lloyd, but Lloyd's still on the wet weather tyres, so any driver that leaves it out much later is probably risking getting a big undercut or losing too much time on an ever-drying track. So it's very much a risk versus reward for this one as it stands for all of these drivers. And as unfortunately a little bit of, that was very close, very sneaky before that hypercar to make their way through. And that was the BMW there of Mattia Porta. And you can see they're now cutting it across the grass. Absolutely no grip for themselves. And so it was a bit cheeky to go for the lapping maneuver there, and they've paid for it, because now their tyres are going to be pretty dirty on a tyre that's also at the moment not going to be offering a huge amount of grip. But Mattia Porta here still finds himself in third position. You can see really struggling, because they've run wide now going down into the Vale chicane, now clock corner onto the Hamilton Straight. So really struggling. The tyres are probably a little bit dirty as well, so definitely not helping the case having to make that maneuver down onto the gravel. And that, yeah, definitely not going to play well into his cards to try and get himself a bit of an undercut going. In this one, you've got a few more cars heading into the pit lane up and down the field. Tyson Robs, though, this is the one I'm most interested about, because out of all of the front runners, Tyson here is the main one who is at risk of a undercut, and he now pulls it into the pit lane to go onto some medium compound tyres. And you can see there as well the other Mercedes AMG car having to get twisted sideways to be able to make it out of the pit lane without making contact with Tyson Robs. So where does this put Harry Smiles? Because Harry has now had a couple of laps here on these tyres to really get a feel for the circuit, know where the grip is. He is currently being lapped by Siramana in a 6th position in the hypercars. None of the hypercars, apart from Lee Perkins, have actually come in for a second pit stop. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays along. Here comes Harry Smiles past the pit exit, and Tyson Robbs is further up the line now as well. On cold tyres though, and still trying to get themselves up to temperature, and it's going to be really tricky. That's one thing about where this pit lane is. The first set of corners are fast sweepers where you desperately need some tyre temperature. You can see a big twitch for Tyson heading out of Chapel as well, so very important to now try. While he's got a little bit of clean air behind, currently Lloyd is leading the way, but still on wet weather tyres. He has to get these tyres up to temperature because he can't afford to really lose a massive amount of time. But Lloyd also is only a second up the road, currently leading the LMGT3 cars as well in the Milky Way McLaren. So Tyson Robbs will inherit the race lead once more from LMGT3, but unfortunately for Harry Smiles, it looks like the strategy hasn't quite played out exactly the way he wanted to. That gap, just as we saw in the first round of pit stops, has remained at 3 seconds. As now your overall race leader, Mohamed Colombo, has now found themselves in the pit lane. Is this going to be a change of tyre onto the medium, a set of dry tyres, because now that should give, unless they come into the lane as well, that would give Letano a race lead, and that will be for the first time, I reckon, in any scenario. I reckon Colombo to lose the race lead, because I reckon the first time around he had that much of a race lead. He actually didn't lose it through the pit cycle. So we've got a new race leader, ladies and gentlemen, in this race at the moment, but still sitting on those wet weather tyres. I'm going to leave those tyre compounds up on the screen for the moment, while we've still got a couple hanging it out on those wet weather tyres. So new race leader is Nando here in the Peugeot, but he's only got a couple of seconds back until we find Colombo here, who is your true race leader, your net race leader, already on a set of drives. So definitely now with now just gone 11 minutes left in this race, we are absolutely on here for a couple of grandstand finishes, I do believe, because up and down the field, you've got Gennaro still leading the way by over 6 seconds to Paul Russell, and Russell is still yet to make a pit stop as well. So maybe at this point in the race, just try to hang it out onto those wet weather tyres, and that is going to be an absolute masterclass of a strategy play. Because take note as well, Matt Frost, so if he pulls this off, Matt Frost is ages behind. Matt Frost is, according to the deltas here, 49 seconds behind Paul Russell, so he's got plenty of time. It's going to be a massive drive from Russell if we're going to be able to have a alternate strategy, we may say, end up taking the a good amount of points here, because you can see the gaps now. So Gennaro leading the way by 7 seconds in LMP2, ahead of Russell. Russell still on the wet weather compound tyres here in second position, and has got what's that going to be? It's going to work out to be about 42 seconds between himself and Jay Frost here. So we have got a very interesting strategy now to play out. I would put my money on that Paul Russell is now going to be staying out for the remainder of this one, and not coming in for a set of drives. Try and hang it out and hopefully not burn out those tyres too much. One thing that is surprising me though is your race leader, Lozano, is still in the lead. Has not come into the lane as of yet, but Colombo right behind, right there, only 2 seconds behind, and we could have a battle for the race lead here, because I reckon as well, if you haven't come in for a pit stop as of yet to swap out for the dries, it's too late now. It's too late. You're going to lose too much time and you don't have the time to gain it back out. And you can see how much Colombo is really pushing as well, getting it on the power slide going through Stoke Corner. So this is going to be absolutely crucial here. We're going to stay on with this one, because there's also some lap traffic to deal with. So is this lap traffic going to get in the way of a battle for the lead? The gap is now less than a second, so Nando was not able to get through that lap traffic probably as cleanly as they would have liked as well. So it's now Peugeot versus Alpine for the lead here. It's wet versus dry tyres. How is this one going to play out? You would say Colombo is going to be able to make this one done super easy down the inside. at a village. Is the move going to be able to get done? No, move is not done. Looks for the switchback move. Is that one going to be able to get done? No. There's the defensive driving from Nando here is absolutely brilliant, but he can't get the traction down on those wet weather tyres out onto the grass as well for good measure. So Colombo now moves back into the race lead in the hypercars, and Nando, unfortunately, the strategies hasn't played out to the point of getting a race win, but they can still be in for a wicked result if they hang it out. But looking up and down the hypercar class, Packer, Fraser, Siramana, your top 5 all still on the wet weather tyres, and there's a spinner there as well, and that looks like it was the 5th place car maybe. It wasn't the 5th place car. What car was it of the GT3 cars that went for a bit of a spin? We'll have to figure that one out on a little bit later, but no, that was a spinner for one of the GT3 cars. But we're currently looking at Harry Smiles here because has now dropped down to P4. So something has happened for Smiles here. Dropped down to 4th. Is on the medium compound tyres, so is on dries. The only other driver in front of him that is still on wet weather tyres in the GT3 class is Lloyd here in the Milky Way McLaren, currently sitting in 2nd position, 5 seconds away from the race leader of Tyson Robbs, and has got a further 7 seconds behind to Nick Hill. So this could also be a very big play. So we've got a couple of drivers here trying to make the one-stopper work, despite the weather conditions saying that it's going to be a 2-stopper with now the circuit pretty much completely dry there. You can see no dry line really visible anymore on this circuit, and we've got a few movers now actually in the LMP2 class, because if you take a look here at Paul Russell, still sitting in that 2nd position. His gap to the next car behind has only fallen 2 seconds to Frost. So the gap is still at 40 seconds. So I reckon Frost here is on for an absolute ripper of a result here by going for the alternate strategy of not coming in for those medium compound tyres. And it is going to be super interesting as we go. So we're going to bring back up the timing deltas between each car to see what the pace difference is like. Keep an eye on things like the gap between Frost and Russell. It's currently sitting at 40.6 seconds. Expect that to drop, but it hasn't dropped as quickly as I would have thought. Bit of a lock-up though for Matthew Marsh as he's trying to close the gap down on Matt Nippers, and that gap is now extended to over a second. The gap was only about half a second just a moment ago. So a few mistakes here for Marsh has caused that gap to extend out, but the pace from Nippers has been absolutely wild as well. So caught up in a little bit of a lap 1 scuffle as well, so trying to make their way back through the field. So a bit of a recovery drive, unfortunately, for Matt here, sitting in 4th position and now has a gap of 33 seconds to gain if he wants a podium. But with only 5 minutes left of the race, I'm going to say that's going to be a little bit of a tall order, unfortunately. So heading into the final 5 minutes of this one, how does this all look for the field? So you've got Colombo still leading the way and still absolutely pushing it, because that gap is now extended out to 9 seconds for Nando here, and Packham rounding out your podium and making his way through some of the GT3 cars, with Granero has been unchallenged this entire race for the lead. Essentially, once he got it, he was out of here and is leading by a huge margin of 15 seconds, with Russell, who we've been keeping a very, very keen eye on, because still running those wet weather tyres. I'll bring the tyres back up so you can see they're still on the wet weather tyres, but as is a decent amount of the field as well. And then you've got Frost trying to close the gap behind to get themselves a 2nd position, but finds 39 seconds still the gap, with now only 4.5 minutes left of the proceedings here tonight. And then in the GT3 cars, we haven't spoken much of Tyson Robbs, but that's just because he has been absolutely out in front and smashing it. 11 seconds he's got to Lloyd, who is also another driver who is doing the one-stop strategy, staying out on those wet weather tyres, but the gap is closing now because Nick Hill is only 2.6 seconds behind on dry tyres. So this gap should be coming absolutely flying down, and especially through a sequence of corners like this. And you can tell he's pushing a bit of a twitch there, going through maggots that was. So definitely pushing is Nick Hill, and the gap was 2.6, now 2.1. So this gap 100% coming down, and this could be a battle in the closing stages of this race for 2nd position. The gap, the time left is only 3.5 minutes. The gap has now just fallen to under 2 seconds as well. So were absolutely on, and at this point in time I reckon this is going to be really the only set of drivers that are going to be able to battle it out in the dying stages, because you've got Mattia Porter here. He is trying to defend from Ricky Affiat as well in that Ferrari. So Affiat's been in the mix of things as well, hasn't been able to break that top 6 as we mentioned earlier on, but a P8 will still be a very decent result as the gap now extends after getting passed and overtaken by Mattia Porter. And we'll take a look at the progress of Eric Chandler as well. I haven't done that in a little bit. Now finds himself up into 6th position. That is for himself. Missed the start of the race and has found himself beautifully climbing his way back through the field. And here we go. I've missed it. I've missed it. The battle has gone on. So Lloyd has now lost the position to Nick Hill. So we've had a change. It's come much sooner than I would have thought it would have for this one here, because the gap when we last checked was at about 1.7 seconds. The gap is now already out to a second in favour of Nick Hill on your screen now in the Porsche. Lloyd, though, has played a brilliant strategy. It hasn't quite worked for himself to get a second position, but he's still on track for a podium because the gap behind him is 13 seconds to the next car with only 2 minutes left of racing to go. So this race has really put it on, because we've had so many different strategies playing out in this one, which has really shaped things up. So it's been a race of strategy and not so much of the on-track battling, and that is just sometimes the way it goes, but it is still a extremely interesting race and fascinating race to witness. I've just had word from the stewards as well, so we have had a time penalty for Gennaro. Gennaro, your race leader, has just been handed a 10-second time penalty for an unsafe rejoin back to the circuit. His gap to the next car is 20 seconds, so that's going to shave his race lead down into half. So that is going to change this complexion of the race just a little bit, because I'm sure Russell in second position is going to be getting a word of that through his ear that there's been a penalty handed out. So if he's able to gain just 10 seconds, now it will have to be 13 seconds. He could get himself a race win despite not crossing the line in first, but since I've said that, I reckon Gennaro just wants to be safe, because he's really turned up the wick and he has put himself a further entire second up now on his race lead. And we had another penalty now come through from the stewards box, and it's for Glastonbury in the LMGT3 car. That is for himself. Unfortunately, he finds himself in the lane. He has DNF'd from the race, but he has got a 55-second time penalty for causing a collision. So we've missed that one, unfortunately, but we're now down into the dying stages of this race. Mohamed Colombo has driven absolutely beautifully here, and he is about to cross the line to start one more lap here of this Silverstone circuit. So let's just watch his craft here, because he's been able to pull out a 24-second lead. He has been absolutely unchallenged in this one, and I've just noticed as well in the timings, Ricky Packham has got himself up into second position, because I reckon while we've been looking up and down the field, there's been a bit of either a battle or a mistake here from Nando, because the gap has absolutely shriveled down, and you can see both drivers still on the wet, so quite a few drivers still trying to make the wet weather tyres last to the end, and they are well and truly going to do that, because the clock has now ticked down to 0. And what is going on? Nando is actually into the lane, and what is going on here? Is there possibly some sort of puncture? Because they've come into the lane on the last lap for a pit stop, and oh no, they were in second position, now will find themselves down in 6th position as it stands now, down to 7th, and now down into 8th. So that is just so unfortunate for Nando here. Was absolutely on for a wicked result. Unfortunately, it's not going to play out the way they ever hoped. That does promote Chandra. Oh, and Colombo's had an incident as well. Colombo's just spun off on the final lap of the race. That is a disaster. Luckily, no race-ending damage as well. What was that caused that? Because I kind of was still looking at the timings and just caught the tyre smoke out the corner of my eye. We're going to have to work out what that one was, and I'm looking at a quick replay. It looked like it was a rear lock. He locked the rear wheels are trying to get by one of the GT3 cars and went for a bit of a spin. So that was a little bit messy, but luckily for himself, he is going to cross the line to take the win here in Silverstone. So it was a very, very convincing race last time out for himself. He got a second position. This time, though, he will take the win here in Silverstone. And let's take a look now at Christian Granero, because Granero has been also absolutely on fire. He has been untouched, and he also took the win in Imola. So he is looking like he is going to take a 2 from 2 for himself here. As one of the that was fourth place. Mattia Porter making a lock up there, going into that was Brooklyn's. A bit of a mistake there, as all of these cars are now battling it out. Where did this battle end up coming from as well? So you've got a battle for the podium here. Mattia Porter will just hold on ahead of Chris Fraser, and you got the Siramana as well just behind. But it's going to be Christian Granero who does cross the line. He'll take the win in. That is LMP2, and then you got Tyson Robbs yet to finish his final flying lap. So I reckon it may have been Tyson Robbs, because it was one of these AMG cars that was caught up in the incident with Colombo on that final lap. But Tyson Robbs here has also had a absolutely brilliant race, because it has been a just absolutely unstoppable. He won in Imola, and he will now also be going on to try and get a race win here in Silverstone. He is not quite done yet, though. He may have a 25-second race lead, but there is still some extremely challenging corners yet to come for himself to round out this final lap for himself. Colombo wins overall. Colombo wins the hypercar class as well. Granero wins LMP2. Packham and Porter round out the podium in hypercar class. LMP2 is Russell and Frost rounding out the podium. And at the moment, it is looking nearly set in stone that Tyson Robbs is going to win this one ahead of Nick Hill and Lloyd as well. So how will this one play out? Because look at the times that he has got. So it was a very convincing race for Tyson Robbs here. He will take the win by a margin. That is indeed. And he wins GT3 here, the LMGT3 class at Silverstone. It has been absolutely fantastic to see all of the battling that we have had here so far tonight. Nick Hill also on the circuit, looking to get himself a second position here in that Porsche, and Lloyd doing a bit of celebratory donuts. That was a brilliant strategy play for Lloyd as well, to get himself up onto a podium by making those wet weather tires last the distance. Unfortunately, though, it was a couple of drivers as well that tried to make it work, and it just couldn't make it work for themselves. Mainly talking about Nando here. That was just so unfortunate, having to make a last lap pit stop for this one here. So that has been it for this race. Mohamed Colombo has taken the race win in the hypercar class. Christian Granero in the LMP2 class, and Tyson Robbs in the LMGT3 class. It has been a fantastic race. I have been Peter Clark here in the commentary booth for this one here. We have had it all. It was dry, it was then wet, and it was dry again. We've seen split strategies. It has been absolutely epic. This has been a sensational TV production, and we will see you in the next one, where round 3 of this series kicks off at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium for our first day to night race, a 1-hour sprint at the hills of Belgium. And we'll see you then. I'll catch you next time.
Sensational TV YouTube channel. Don't fucking miss it.